ReZero is one of those rare shows that consistently subverts your expectations. On the surface, it appears to be the most stereotypical isekai anime of all time, but that's part of its magic. The recognizable simplicity hides a rich complexity. In some ways, ReZero is a total deconstruction of the isekai genre. While the protagonist Subaru does travel to another world and acquire a unique power, it isn't some godlike ability that enables him to bend the entire world to his will. And this unique isekai power, returned by death, turns the show from a stereotypical male power fantasy into something far more nuanced and thought-provoking. It's been 4 long years since Season 2 of ReZero came out, and Season 2 came out 4 long years after Season 1, but finally, ReZero is returning with Season 3. Get psyched to find out what terrible things are in store for Subaru next. Welcome to Gateway to Anime. We recommend the best new anime as well as deep dive into the classics. If that sounds good, hit like and subscribe for more. Part of what makes ReZero so great is that it's complicated. It's a big, messy knot of time travel, twists, and reveals. So rather than go through every single time loop and minor story detail, we're going to remind you of the key characters and events of Season 1 and 2, as well as explain the lore and dark powers that govern this anime. But comment below with anything we might have missed, or any corrections. Spoilers ahead. One night after getting snacks from the konbini, the introverted Natsuki Subaru is suddenly transported to a fantasy world, the land of Lugunika. After only one day of stumbling through this strange new world, Subaru doesn't discover he's the demon lord or that he's secretly the strongest. He's shockingly and brutally killed. Subaru has an ability called Return by Death. Whenever Subaru dies, he revives at a specific time and place from his past, known as a save point. Subaru retains all his memories with every traumatic detail, while those around him seemingly don't, enabling him to alter his own future. He is reset from zero, hence the title, ReZero. Subaru must repeatedly try different tactics to overcome deadly obstacles that reset him back to his save point and keep him fixed in a time loop. Once he does, his journey progresses and his save point shifts forward to a new time and place, creating a new time loop where Subaru is faced with a whole new deadly obstacle fated to kill him and reset him to his new save point. Subaru is also unable to tell anyone about his ability, no matter how much he wants to. Whenever he tries, black shadow hands appear and clutch onto his heart, rendering him close to death. This forces him to carry a mounting burden of traumatic memories all on his own, unable to grieve the many deaths of his previous loops and forever altering his interactions with people going forward. And ReZero takes this seriously. A large part of Subaru's journey in the show relates to his mental health. After so many traumatic loops, his inability to connect with those around him also reflects his life before the fantasy world, embedding elements of the NEET and Hikikomori condition into his isekai power. This clever metaphor for destructive thought loops and inability to connect is one of the key things that elevates ReZero above many other isekai anime. Subaru's first loop begins when he arrives in Lugunika and meets a beautiful half-elf, who he instantly falls head over heels for.
私はサテラ
She introduces herself as Satella, much to the shock of her cat-like familiar Puck. Satella's real name is Emelia, and her crest has been stolen by a young thief named Felt. They track Felt to a warehouse in the rough part of town, where they're ambushed by the fearsome Elsa the Bowel Hunter and ruthlessly killed. Subaru reawakens at his current save point in front of a street vendor, and the first loop begins. In this first loop, Subaru must help Emelia to reclaim her crest and find a way to defeat Elsa the Bowel Hunter. After several attempts, he eventually succeeds, although he is injured during the fight. Subaru is brought into Emelia's opulent home, where his next time loop begins. As he stumbles through the mansion, he opens a door leading to a magic library where he meets Beatrice, who, despite having the appearance of a young girl, is actually a very old and very powerful entity. The entry door to her library changes every time, but Subaru seems to have a special knack for finding it. Subaru is greeted by identical twins who are maids at the manor, the pink-haired Ram and the blue-haired Rem. Finally, he meets the owner of the mansion, Roswaal L. Mathers, of whom he is immediately suspicious. Now, at this point, Subaru has already met many of the main characters of Season 1 and 2, and also tested out his new power called Return by Death. But before we go on, let's first do a lap around the important lore and backstory of this fantasy world. Emelia is actually a candidate for the throne of the Kingdom of Lugunica. The kingdom is currently overseen by the Council of Wise Men, but very soon they will determine a new monarch in a process called the Royal Selection. The crest that Subaru helped Emelia to retrieve is essential for her candidacy, and Roswaal, who owns the manor, supports Emelia's claim to the throne. This sets up the main plot of ReZero, with Subaru striving to help his love Emelia participate in the royal selection and claim the throne of Lugunica. Problem is, Emelia's candidacy is not so strong, for a very superstitious reason. Turns out Emelia bears a striking resemblance to one of the most feared ancient evils in all of the kingdom of Lugunica. Satella, the Witch of Envy, the most powerful and feared of the 7 Witches of Sin. The 7 Witches of Sin walked the earth 400 years ago, before the Great Calamity. Since that time, they have been relegated to the shadows, but their great power still has a major influence in the kingdom of Lugunica and the world, especially for their devout followers, the Witches Cult. In the series, the Witch Cult is shrouded in mystery. The symbol for the cult resembles a red eye, which is emblazoned on the pointed hat of their jet black clerical robes. They seemingly appear at random to cause wanton destruction, leading them to be deemed a terrorist organization within Lugunica. In ReZero, the Witches of Sin are the primary source of power from which the Witch Cult and Subaru himself draw their magical abilities. The mysteries of Satella and the other Witches of Sin are a driving force throughout ReZero, with Subaru slowly learning his place within the deep history of the Kingdom of Lugunica. With Emelia's striking resemblance to Satella, the cause of the Great Calamity, their journey together is about more than just helping Emelia in the royal selection for the throne, but their connection to the deeper powers of this world. So now that we've explained what's really driving the story of ReZero, we can step through what actually happened in Season 1 and 2. After Subaru first arrived in Lugunica, he met Emelia and helped her to reclaim her crest. That was his first time loop. Subaru was injured in the fight with Elsa, so Emelia took him home to Roswaal Mansion. At the mansion, he meets Rem and Ram, as well as Beatrice and Roswaal himself. Roswaal explains that he is backing Emelia for royal selection, and Subaru surprises everyone by asking for a job at the mansion to stay close to Emelia. After a few days working as a butler and getting close with Ram, Subaru suddenly finds himself reset to the first day he arrived at the manor. This is his second loop. In this second loop, Subaru must uncover the mystery of his strange and confusing deaths, while also discovering the identity of a secret curse user who is attacking the manor. Subaru is shocked to discover that Rem has been the one repeatedly murdering him. Rem can smell the scent of Satella, the Witch of Envy, on him, which is actually the source of his Return by Death ability, and also suspects that he is the curse user attacking the mansion. So she murders him to protect Emelia. Both Rem and Ram are revealed to actually be demons. Back when they were children, their village was attacked by the Witch Cult, reinforcing Rem's motivations to attack Subaru. During this second loop, Subaru learns some fundamentals of controlling his rare yin, or darkness, magic affinity with Emelia's familiar Puck. He seeks the counsel of Beatrice to counter the curse user and uncover its identity. Subaru eventually gains the trust of the mansion's employees as he thwarts the curse user, forming an exceptionally close bond with Rem and finally progressing past his mansion loop. So now that Subaru's finished his second loop, this next part of the story is a bit of a bridge before his third loop. It's royal selection time, and Subaru follows Emelia despite her asking him explicitly not to. He ends up publicly embarrassing himself and Emelia, insulting the royal knights, and cops a bad beating for his trouble courtesy of Julius. Emelia is obviously pissed, and calls Subaru out for acting selfishly. All of Subaru's memories of alternate timelines converging, he tells Emelia that she owes him more than she could possibly imagine. Emelia, having no knowledge of these alternate timelines, has no idea what he's talking about, and returns to the mansion with Roswaal, having ended her friendship with Subaru. Left with Rem in the capital city to heal, Subaru trains obsessively until Rem senses trouble at Roswaal Manor, causing them to head back. Now it's time for loop number 3. Subaru has to stop the witch cult from attacking both the mansion and the nearby Arnhem village. The loops start stacking. Numerous attempts where Rem and Emelia are brutally killed, despair looming as he fails to figure out a way to prevent the tragedies. Behind this calamity is one of the witch's cult's founding members,
Petelgeuse Romanée-Conti.
Petelgeuse Romanée-Conti. Petelgeuse Romanée-Conti is an unhinged madman, one of the Sin archbishops who lead the witches' cult, and crucially, in possession of a powerful hidden ability of his own that Subaru must discern and counteract in order to defeat him. But that's not all. Petelgeuse is using one of the 3 great witches' beasts, the white whale, in his attack. The white whale is capable of flight and releases 2 different mists, one being the mist of diffusion, which carries an effect similar to mana poisoning, leaving those caught in it to feel horrendous sickness. The other is the mist of annihilation, which is capable of erasing victims' memories, along with any memories that the surrounding people had of them. It can also break people's spirits with its incredibly loud and aggressive roar. And it can create clones that would split the original body's power. The sum of this is that all of Subaru's previous loops have been child's play compared to this one. After countless attempts at stopping Petelgeuse Romanée-Conti and the white whale, hopelessness sets in for Subaru. From a very dark place, Subaru tries to convince Rem to escape with him. Rem refuses, and manages to get through to him by delivering a pep talk for the ages. Rem's genuine kindness and inspiring words manage to convince Subaru to keep going. It's here that Rem confesses her love for him, and Subaru rejects her, professing his love for Emelia. Even so, Rem decides to stick by him and help Subaru achieve his goals, further proving why Rem is indeed best girl. I will be taking no further questions. From here, Subaru formulates a plan to save Emelia. The white whale is defeated, Subaru leverages all of his failed attempts, makes some plays like a serious political operator, and actually comes across like a bit of a badass for the first time ever as he rallies several groups to come together and take that whale down. Petelgeuse doesn't go down easy. He has a witch factor ability called the Unseen Hand, which allows him to summon numerous invisible hand-like appendages from his body that can attack things and possess people. But in the end, Subaru takes him down too, with a little help from his good friend Julius. After Petelgeuse's death, Subaru inherits his witch factor, the authority of sloth, and the ability to use the Unseen Hand. Our boy is getting stronger. Subaru finally manages to save the day and is reunited with Emelia, to whom he apologizes and confesses his love to. He vows to support her in her quest to become the ruler of the kingdom, and she is incredibly thankful to him. Well, that brings us to the end of ReZero Season 1. What a ride, huh? Now let's dive straight into Season 2. Kicking straight back off where Season 1 ended, the party are attacked on the road by 2 more Sin archbishops, Libate Kados of Gluttony and Regulus Corneus of Greed. They fight valiantly, including Rem using her demon powers, but the power gap is too much. Li's witch factor power is that he can consume the name and memories of his opponents, which essentially erases their existence, not dissimilar to one of the white whale's powers. This power is used on Rem, with neither herself nor anyone around her remembering who she is. However, because Subaru is not of this world, he retains his memories of Rem. Rem is placed in a catatonic-like state, but is not killed. When Subaru reaches the castle where the wounded are being treated, he rushes around to find Rem. And when he's led to her, he has a full breakdown over her condition, leading him to plunging a sword into his neck to attempt a loop where he can save her. However, his reset point is changed to a spot that is too late for him to do so. Subaru vows to return Rem to her former state, no matter the cost. This leads us to the Santuary arc. Subaru is seeking answers and is suspicious of Roswaal. So Beatrice tells Subaru to seek out a place called the Sanctuary. Roswaal took many of the villagers to the Sanctuary during the attacks from Petelgeuse to seemingly keep them safe. On the way to the Sanctuary, Subaru is magically teleported to a grassy field by Echidna, the Witch of Greed. Echidna wants Subaru to partake in her witch's tea party. He reluctantly obliges and drinks the tea she's provided, which she then says is actually her body fluid. Anyway, this is one of the many encounters with Echidna in which Subaru learns about the Witches of Sin. She also informs him that the Sanctuary is in fact known as the Witch's Graveyard, and is where her soul is imprisoned. Echidna created the Sanctuary as an experiment for achieving immortality, including creating clones of a caretaker named Ryuzu, who still presides over the Sanctuary to this day. The Roswaal family have been caretakers of this graveyard for generations, confirming Subaru's suspicions of Roswaal being connected to the Witches of Sin. This mysterious place has a magical barrier that prohibits any demi-humans from leaving. Someone like Emelia, who is a half-elf and half-human, must pass what's called the Graveyard's Trial in order to leave. As a result, a large part of this time loop is dedicated to both Subaru and Emelia trying to pass the Graveyard's Trial. Subaru quizzes Echidna if his return by death has any limitations, and she explains that his power is based on the intense delusion of Satella, the Witch of Envy, who bestowed the power upon him. Therefore, so long as these delusions persist, so will his deaths continue to reset. There's also an important moment with Echidna where Subaru is able to reveal his power of return by death. Overwhelmed, Subaru breaks down entirely in Echidna's arms. She divulges that she's been watching him all along and invites him to disclose everything he's experienced to her. After all, she is the Witch of Greed and wishes to know all things. Subaru divulging his return by death ability in Echidna's realm leads to the Witch of Envy appearing when Subaru returns to the Sanctuary. This is the first time we've seen the big bad in this way, and the sequence contains some of my favourite sound design in all of anime. Echidna offers Subaru a contract where she can help him through tough spots with her vast knowledge, which causes the other witches to arrive and warn him against it. Subaru rejects the contract, but in a twist, he deduces that Beatrice is connected to Echidna. Okay, so this arc essentially boils down to 3 major plot points. Subaru trying to help Emelia to pass the Graveyard's trials, repelling the Great Rabbit, one of the 3 great witch beasts, from attacking the Sanctuary, and finally, thwarting an attack on Roswaal's mansion where Rem is being cared for. So the manor is once again under attack, this time by none other than Elsa the Bowl Hunter. As Subaru is not a demi-human, he's able to leave the Sanctuary and defend the manor, which he attempts in numerous loops. Subaru realizes that the best way to defend the mansion and the Sanctuary is by enlisting Beatrice's help. Beatrice has been bound to the library for 400 years, bitter and restless as she waits for a promised day when a person will arrive and bring her salvation. After much pleading, Subaru eventually convinces Beatrice to break her contract with Echidna to aid in the fight against the Great Rabbit, who is attacking the Sanctuary. In a major twist, it's actually Roswaal who's been orchestrating the attack on the manor and summoning the snow, which leads to the Great Rabbit attacking the Sanctuary. Roswaal has a future divining gospel gifted by the witches cult, and although unsure of the details, he's become aware that Subaru is somehow looping in time. In an attempt to force Subaru under his control, Roswaal has created a situation where Subaru has to choose between the people in the Sanctuary or those at the mansion. Subaru makes a bet with Roswaal that he can save both the Sanctuary and the mansion. If he does so, Roswaal must fully support him and Emelia while she strives for royal selection. If Subaru loses, Roswaal will kill everyone dear to him and trap him in a loop. A lot of Roswaal's murky motivation is because he's actually been possessed by his ancestor, who is a student of Echidna in the Sanctuary. He desperately wants to meet his teacher again and will do anything in his power to make that happen. Whilst all this is going on, Emelia is failing to complete the Graveyard's trial, but it's here, as she regains her memories, that we learn more about Emelia's backstory. She's special among the elves, over 100 years old, and was only very recently pulled from a frozen forest she froze in a battle against the Witch of Vainglory. While Emelia is tackling the Graveyard trials, Subaru enlists some allies to take down Elsa the Bowl Hunter at the mansion, as well as the Great Rabbit in the Sanctuary. But despite their efforts, the mansion itself is burnt to the ground. However, with Emelia's recovered memories helping her to pass the Graveyard's trial, and Subaru and Emelia sharing their first kiss while he's helping her do so, the Great Rabbit and Elsa get defeated. Subaru wins his bet with Roswaal, who is now sworn to support Subaru and Emelia. Season 2 ends with Subaru being knighted and Emelia ready to advance in the royal selection. So that should be most of the essential information that you need before ReZero Season 3. Of course, we had to miss out on a ton of details, so please comment below with anything we might have missed, as well as your favourite parts from Season 1 and 2. We're so excited to restart our own loop through ReZero Season 3, and there are plenty of mysteries yet to be revealed, such as what is Subaru's relationship to Satella? Why does Emelia look so much like her? What's the deal with Satella and the Witch of Envy? Why is she in love with Subaru? Will Rem ever get back to her old self? Will the best girl return to us as she was, if not better? How will Emelia go in the royal selection? Who are the other archbishops? All this and more is waiting for us in Season 3, so let us know what you're most excited about seeing in this new season. If you want more from Gateway to Anime, hit like and subscribe. You can also find us on TikTok and Instagram. And if you want even more, we have exclusive content behind the scenes on our Patreon. Patreon is the best way to support us, so please check it out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.